Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. Terrick Guindy with the Mr. Olympia. I'm here today with my co-host. He is the master of ceremony for the Mr. Olympia, master of ceremony for the Arnold Classic. He's the 2000 Mr. USA's. He is the voice of bodybuilding. His name is Bob Chick. How are you, Bob?
What's up, my brother? Busy week for both of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. For you guys that are wondering where is Flex Wheeler and our guest, Iain Valliere, they just text us. They are coming in. I just want to go to some of the comments of the people that were waiting. And the first comment is some Ramon fans.
So, there it is, bro. There's the dinosaurs. I knew that was coming.
And then here we have Xavier from Desktop Bodybuilding. He is from Australia, one of the best channels. So guys, subscribe. What's going on, Xavier? Always good content. So we have some of the guests here. Vancouver, I will be judging. Rogan, I will be judging in Victoria in April. So I'll be heading to Vancouver, Canada to judge. Fit Rockstar, Ian is one of the realest people you'd ever meet. What is IMO? I'm old. I don't know what that is.
Bro, come on. Even I know that, and I'm from the 80s, in my opinion.
In my opinion, if he had been in this Arnold lineup or in the UK, he would have been at the top. Man, now people are going to come after me for not knowing. And here we go. There's more dinosaurs.
Listen, you could send all the dinosaurs you want. The guy got beat fair and square. I mean, it is what it is.
Okay, how you guys doing? Ian, Ian Valliere, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys loud and clear. You guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, what's up, Ian?
How's it going, guys? Good to be here.
Iain Valliere, that is, by the numbers, he's won more pro shows than any other Canadian bodybuilder. He is the greatest Canadian bodybuilder of all times. And I had a chance to speak with Chris Bumstead this past Monday and Tuesday. And the influence that you've had on Chris Bumstead, he said, man, I never envisioned this whole thing. I just wanted to be as big as Iain Valliere. I failed on that, but at least it worked out well for me.
He's a lot bigger in some other ways. That's okay. He's doing all right.
Yeah, right.
But no, Ian, I want to start with that because I think that's a really cool thing. The impact that you had on Chris Bumstead, and he's not shy about it. He goes, man, I just looked at this huge guy at the gym, and then he started dating my sister, and I wanted to be as big as him, and I wanted to lift with him. You were more than a mentor to him when he was a kid. You were like a hero for him, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I won't say I was a hero. That's for him to say. Obviously that praise from him feels good to hear. Chris and I came up in this together. I mean, obviously I was a few years ahead of him. I'd already started bodybuilding a little bit when him and I met. Impact influence that career is awesome.
Did we lose Bob? Did we lose him for a little bit?
You're breaking up a little bit. You can hear us, Ian?
Yeah, can you just hop off there, Bob? Yeah. Yep, I can hear you guys fine. We're good, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
You were breaking up. We lost whatever you just said, bro.
We lost you when you said we came up together, and then we lost you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I just said we came up, together. I was a few years ahead of him, obviously. I met Melissa, and I was never aiming to be an influence or a hero to Chris in any way. He was just a young guy that, we trained together. We came up together. We had a lot of good times in bodybuilding together. So to obviously be given the, the credit for, what influence I've had in his career is obviously an honor to me, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, he speaks of you as his inspiration to get into the business, and he speaks of you as a hero to him. He clearly states, I wanted to lift as heavy as he does at the gym. I've never gotten to that point, but I'll keep trying. Bob, Chris Bumstead is the biggest star that we have right now in bodybuilding. But in the end of the day, he turned pro as a bodybuilder at the North Americans, right? And he was inspired by a bodybuilder. Do you think that's some of his edge, that he started as a bodybuilder, he was inspired by a bodybuilder, and now he's going against these classic physique guys?
Well, it depends on how you define it. He is a bodybuilder, so you can't separate it out. Listen, you just said, and I say this, of course, with all due respect to Ian. He knows I'm very fond of him. You know, in a sense of the compete. You know, his competing and his Olympia appearances and all that. But Chris Bump says the greatest Canadian bodybuilder. Just because they call it classic physique doesn't mean it's not bodybuilding. Of course, it's bodybuilding. The 212 is bodybuilding. I mean, everything's bodybuilding. Men's physique is bodybuilding, right? But classic and men's open are both bodybuilding. So first we have to define that.
No, absolutely. I kind of differentiate a little bit, but I see what you're saying. They're both bodybuilders, but Chris is going to be retired as a classic physique. Ian is retired. We'll convince him to get out of retirement by the end of this life as a bodybuilder.
Well, wait a minute. Before we move on, Ian, I got to ask, how's this all going up here, bro? It looks like it's pretty good.
It's coming in pretty good. Yeah, we're 3 months in now. I mean, things are starting to grow. It's going for sure. At least now I can not wear a hat and people aren't staring like, what the hell happened to this guy's head? So at least I look semi-normal going out in public now.
I thought that was pretty cool that I saw Chris at the Arnold, of course, and I asked him how his was coming. He's like, yeah, it's coming along pretty good. But I mean, I thought that was pretty cool though, that you guys actually, I mean, you owned it 100%. You threw it out there on social media. You made a whole thing out of it. I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I appreciate that. I know there's so many guys, and obviously I've noticed that even more so since I was so open about it, that have been wanting to do something about their hair and have been apprehensive about it and, scared of the stigma or whatever it is. And I'm like, look, it's just fucking hair, guys. Like if you want to make it look better, just do it. I mean, there's girls getting breast augmentations left, right, and center. We just want to have a nice head of hair. Just go for it. So I think when guys see a couple guys like Chris and I that, maybe they look up to, or, guys in the industry, and they see, that they're out there and they're doing it openly, maybe it'll, a couple of them will, pull the trigger on something they've been wanting to do, and we're a little nervous about it,
I see. Let's talk Arnold Classic. Did you like Hadi? Did you think he was his best physique?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if it wasn't his best physique, it was very close to it. But I do think in an overall, package of size, density, conditioning, detail, the only argument you can really make would maybe be his 18 Vancouver. But even then, the detail was maybe a little sharper, but the size wasn't definitely the same. So yeah, I would definitely say from what I've seen of Hadi, this is the best version we've seen to date. And I think he won in a pretty decisive victory, in my opinion.
Just a question, so that we can start creating some hostility from the beginning. Would Hadi's physique at the Arnold Classic 2004 would have beaten Derek Lunsford 2023 Mr. Olympia physique?
Yeah, in my opinion, yes. That's nothing against Derek. Derek's a great champion. He deserved to win the Olympia on that day. But if we're going to compare one physique from one show to one at another, I think that was probably one of the better bodybuilders we've seen step on stage in a number of years. I think you could put that toe to toe with any of the Olympia champions over the last, until really back to Phil Heath at like some of his better years. So he was very, very good, very on. He was full as a house. He was sharp as nails. And he came there and owned that show for sure.
Hey, Bob, you kind of nodded your head. Do you disagree with Iain Valliere on that statement?
Ian knows his bodybuilding, and he's dead on the money. Probably the best Hadi we've seen. Would have beaten Derek? I mean, obviously, different show, all that jazz, different lighting, blah, blah, blah. But to Hadi's credit, I mean, he did look like he made some improvements. Derek's always going to have a better physique in terms of what we always talk about: shape, proportion, symmetry. Hadi can't get a smaller waist at this point in his career. So he's pretty tapped out for what he's got. That's a pretty formidable package. Very hard to beat. But Derek's very hard to beat too. And Derek is better from the back. He's got the best back in the entire industry. And I don't care who you put up next to him. So that's a good one. Samson, obviously, I know we're going to get into the entire lineup. still has the better physique than both of those guys. But clearly he came in at 90%. You know, I like to throw those percents out there. And 90% was not going to do it. A 95% Samson, it might be enough to beat anybody in the world. But unfortunately, we haven't seen him at 95%. I do understand he's got a change in his camp right now.
So my question to both of you, as we watch Hadi Choopan on stage is, and I agree with both of you, I think his performance was dominant. And he was a lot better than the Arnold. But Ian, if there's one thing that you could say that Hadi could improve from his Arnold performance, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're standing next to someone like Terrick, as Bob pointed out, I mean, the back shots are where he's going to lose the most ground. You know, I think his front double, his front lat, side shots, I mean, even his back lat spread is very great. You know, most muscular. The back double is obviously the one he's going to lose the most ground. So, you know, as much detail and density as he can keep packing on that back. And the only other knock you could really make on his physique that was, it's not a big detriment to it, but you're talking about winning Olympias here and beating someone as great as Terrick, is the small imbalance he has between his right and left quad. You know, obviously that right quad has a little bit less on the sweep than the other one. I don't think it's a huge thing, but when you're, like I said, when you're talking about this level, every bit counts. So obviously getting as much symmetry back to those quads as you can is going to be helpful.
Bob, same question to you.
Hadi, and I just want to point this out as we're watching him pose. He clearly worked on his presentation because that was lacking at the Olympia. And like Ian says, everything counts at the Olympia, man. You're splitting hairs, no pun intended, Ian. When it comes to these guys at that level, everything counts. Okay, so presentation, you know, he mailed in his routine at the Olympia. This one you can see was a little bit better, a little more well thought out. But just to tell you how decisive it was, because I do believe it was a 1-2. I don't think it was this was not a coin flip or any of that type of stuff. Rafael was closer to Samson, okay, than Samson was to Hadi. All right, so that's how, you know, close and not close that it was. That physique that Hadi's got, outstanding. I mean, that he can bring that to the Olympia all day long. He's just got to hope that Terrick doesn't come in as sharp or as big, and you know, then we got a competition.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want to do right now is go back to Samson Dauda, because we've talked about if Samson was 100%, if Samson, but you know, we all know he's a genetic freak. He's got the lines. He's got, you know, a lot of mass. We're just missing conditioning. But it's been a couple shows that we've been saying conditioning, right, Ian?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, it's one of those things that we all hope to see, and I still, you know, think he can get there. You know, he's getting slowly better in terms of his conditioning, but I don't think it's fast enough of a rate, you know, that we need to see for him to really start making moves in the next, you know, couple of years. You know, to beat guys like Hadi and Terrick, you know, the conditioning, like you said, 90%, he's got to come up a good 8 to 10% in that conditioning to really have a big impact on these guys. Because he's already beating them on a lot of other factors. You know, he's got the muscle, he has the shape, he can keep showing up like this every show, but they're always still going to have that leg up on him because conditioning shows in every single pose. You know, conditioning isn't just conditioning in the front double, it's conditioning in the front double, the side shots, the back shots. It's in every single pose you're gaining that ground, right? So, you know, I think that's obviously going to be the thing that he's going to need to improve the most. You know, obviously, as we just stated with Terrick, and Hadi is excellent as well in this capacity, but from the back shots, I still think Samson does have a little way to go to, you know, definitely at least to compare with a guy like Terrick. You know, in terms of the width and density through the back, I think there's still a little to be desired there. But like we said, we're splitting hairs for Olympia winnings here, right?
Hey, before I go to Bob, I have a question from one of our viewers, Raymond Jones. Ian, you coached Chris Bumstead. He won 3 classic Physique Olympia titles. If Samson called you and said, Ian, we competed together, you know, I want a bodybuilder that's recently retired to coach me, would you consider that?
No. It would be a cool idea, but let's leave that to the guys that are, you know, slugging it out as career coaches. And, you know, I've been kind of out of the game coach. And honestly, I've never coached anyone like Samson, and he's right at the peak of his career. It would be a learning you know, a learning experience for me. And I don't want to be learning while this guy's trying to compete for Olympia wins, you know? So, you know, it'd be cool. And I would love to do it, but no, I definitely think he could be in better hands with some of the guys that are out there in the industry right now that are full-time career coaches and still slugging it out all the time. Right.
Hey, Bob, Melvin Anthony, one of the most beautiful physiques, tiny little waist, but we always missed a little bit of the separation between the hamstrings and the glutes. I think Samson has a lot more mass than Melvin Anthony, but what do we need to do? I mean, in order to nail it and beat some of these guys that we keep saying, if he's 100%, he should beat these guys.
Well, this is an easy fit. Listen, we don't have to move mountains here with Samson. He's clearly one of the best in the world. He's got every attribute to win the Olympia. He's got a better physique overall than Terrick and Hadi. Okay, again, size, shape, proportion, symmetry, all that stuff. And his conditioning isn't miles off. Again, I always use the, you know, these erroneous percentages, but you know, to make a statement, right? 90%, right? He's got to get to 95. He doesn't need to be 100%. Because it's not a conditioning contest either, okay? It's the sum of all the parts, and he's got all those boxes checked. What he needs is a different program in the last 48 hours. I can almost guarantee if you looked at a picture of Samson Dauda or a video from 3 or 4 days out, he probably wins the show. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I talked to Jim Mannion, who did look at him a week out of the show and said he looked good. When Jim says you look good, right? And he just doesn't bring that to the show. That's a last 48-hour issue. That's on the coach. I understand he's no longer with Milos. They parted ways amicably, from what I understand. But he's had his chance. He's got the wrong blueprint. And if I was guessing, I would say that he doesn't need to be doing everything that he's doing in the last 48 hours. Less is more. Glide that in like you're landing a plane, and I'll guarantee you this guy can get to 95%. But all that voodoo at the end, and whether it's this or that, I don't want to get specific because then they got people, you know, knocking our door down on you know, what he's doing, what he's not doing. It's all that last minute protocol. Everybody knows what we're talking about, but too many carbs, too much of this, too much of that, and it'll smooth you out. We've seen this from other bodybuilders over the years. If he doesn't change his protocol now, you'll never see him at 100%.
Well, yeah, incredible genetics, but we need to come in a little bit more conditioned. Now, let's move on. Bob, you said something that's interesting. You said Samson was closer to Rafael Brandao than Hadi.
Correct. Yep.
So I want you to talk to me about Rafael Brandao.
Rafael Brandao did an excellent job, probably the talk of the show, other than the winner, obviously, and Hadi, right? He did his homework, man. This guy took the last year, spent it in the gym, put on some muscle. He needed to thicken up a little bit. He needs to be supersized, and he did that. He came back. He looked great, in proportion, waist still small, brought the conditioning, brought a little bit more muscle. Rafael was on his way, and yeah, he was closer to Samson than Samson was to Hadi. Ian said it was pretty much a decisive placing in his opinion. I agree completely. I had it purely, Hadi was never in fear of losing this show with how they both looked at it, the prejudging. But Rafael, let me tell you, if Samson was another percent or two softer, Rafael would have beat him in the second place.
Hey, Ian, you competed with Rafael. He was a little bit smaller in 2022. You know, he's been coming up, but he said, hey, my first Olympia, I want to get top 10. He wasn't delusional about it. And prior to the show, he goes, Terrick, I know everybody wants me to win the show, but Hadi and Samson are really good bodybuilders, and they might be ahead of me in my development. What did you think of Rafael Brandao?
Like Bob said, he was extremely impressive. And other than, you know, Hadi and the very impressive package he brought, and maybe John De La Rosa, I thought was very impressive as well. But Rafael was the talk of the town here. I mean, his improvements since the 22 Olympia, he didn't waste that time. I mean, this is a year that shows. I mean, how many times do we see guys take a year off and they come back, they look the exact same? Rafael absolutely does not look the exact same. And if you look at pictures lined up next to each other, you can see the added mass through the upper shelf, chest, delts, arms, even a bit through the quads, the back. I mean, it's really, he put it on everywhere, kept his shape. It was a fantastic package. And I completely agree with Bob that I thought that it was a closer show between Samson and Rafael than it was between Hadi and Samson. I think like you said, if he had been a couple % off, or if I think Rafael was maybe a touch sharper in these back shots, it could have changed the dynamic. Absolutely. But he brought an incredible package, and I'm definitely excited to see more of him.
I'd like to welcome Flex Wheeler, 4-time Arnold Classic champion, 1992, Mr. USA's. Flex, how are you?
Great. Sorry for being detained late. Having some work done in my house, and had to sneak up in my bedroom and angle it right so you guys don't see all my porn pictures.
It's okay. It's okay.
That. Yeah.
You got it, Bob.
Flex.
You sent it to me anyway.
Flex, you made your money in bodybuilding by not being the biggest bodybuilder, but by having tremendous shape, small waist. What do you think about Rafael? Is he one of those guys like Flex Wheeler, like Chris Cormier, aesthetically pleasing guy?
Extremely, and I echo the last thing, what I heard Bob said, and also Ian. Listen, when talent doesn't do his job and open a door, anything can happen. And Rafael did his job. It's no talking about who should have done what, who should have came in better place. They're off, and what if? I'm so sick of this what if, and with these guys with these great potentials. Rafael done his job, and if he was just a tad bit sharper, yeah, I think he could have took Samson out, because Samson left that door open. And it's amazing. He did his job, so he needs to get kudos for that. Forget about bringing somebody else into it because they didn't do his job. Rafael is doing his job, and I'm very interested to see what he's going to do for the Olympia. Hopefully he doesn't go overboard, because there's not much more that he needs to do, just a little tad sharper. But I don't think he needs to go and make the mistake that I did and start chasing these guys just because they have more size than you. That would be a tremendous mistake for him. But it looks like he's on the right track, definitely. And Ian, I haven't heard that upper shelf in a long time. That's an old school upper shelf, upper nest, yeah, that lets me know you're a student of this game.
Keep in mind, boys, Rafael still has to qualify for the Olympia, so we're going to see him on stage again, be it this week coming up. I thought maybe I heard there were some possible visa issues. I didn't see his name on the list, but this would be a great show if he can make it there.
Yeah, that's why I didn't say bring up the Arnold UK, because it's not clear, and I haven't heard whether he's going to make it or not. So I don't want to what if he makes it there and he can't, so.
Yeah, to my knowledge, he is for sure doing the Arnold Brazil, though, correct?
Yes. I spoke to him. He's doing the Arnold Brazil 100%. There were rumors and speculation that he might have been doing UK, but I think he's going to be doing the Arnold UK. Now, I want to go back, Ian. We've been talking about Samson Dauda. I've myself and everybody, this guy has amazing lines and this and that. And now we are talking about Rafael possibly beating him in a few poses, being close to Samson. Is Rafael potential as high as Samson? If Samson cannot get conditioned, which I doubt, I think eventually he will, and he will shock the world. But if Rafael continues to grow gradually, is he as much of a threat as Samson Dauda?
That's a tough question. Samson is a fantastic bodybuilder. He's big as a house, very complete, great shape. Rafael has a lot of these same attributes as well. Only time will tell. I definitely think his ceiling is, as high as he wants it to be, given like what Flex said there, that he doesn't try and push it too fast, chasing guys with size and ruin what his absolutely best attributes are, which is that shape, lines, flow, symmetry. As long as he keeps all those things in check and plays his game, doesn't try and play anybody else's game, let's be serious, there's some big dudes out there right now. I mean, Hottie's packed full of muscle. Samson's huge. Nick Walker's massive. I mean, no, there's some big guys out there. And I think the progress he made from 22 to this year was good, steady. He kept all his shape and all his lines. I think if he just keeps doing what he's doing and doesn't get too crazy with it, like Flex said, I think the sky's the limit for him. Absolutely. To say if it's higher or equal to Samson, that's very hard for me to say. I mean, they both could be top guys. I mean, they both have potential to be right up there in the mix. Definitely. But it's where he goes from there is hard to say.
And don't leave
Bob,
yourself as one of those big guys who has a lot of potential also, brother.
No, thank you.
But a lot of people, Bob, Chris Cormier said, Terrick, I thought Rafael beat Samson in some of the poses. Can we start looking at Rafael as one of the threats, as Olympia first call out type of guy, just like Samson?
He absolutely has the potential. And if he can just duplicate the progress he made this past season, next season, he still needs probably another year, okay? But if he just duplicates what he did this year, he is right there. The key is keeping the waist small. We didn't see him come back bigger and sloppier. We didn't see the waist blow out. He does seem to have a natural physique in that the muscle is getting put in the right places and that waist is staying small. And those are hallmarks of being in that top 6 at the Olympia. So, yeah, his potential, he can bring it wherever he wants to bring it. Hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully his training goes good, barring injury, of course, any of that. That said, I know we could probably hopscotch around a little bit, but as I'm watching the video, I got to be honest, I thought Akim Williams was going to be higher.
Wow.
He didn't start out very high. He was kind of down in the lower third, right? But then as the call-outs kept coming, he kept getting called out a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's sharpening up or whatever. He has got more muscle on his frame. And I got to say this, I'd be remiss once again if I didn't mention, Akim reminds me so much of Johnny Morant. And Johnny Morant, unfortunately, we just lost him this past week at 61. Yeah, Johnny Morant passed away. So, big rest in peace to Johnny. We competed against each other. We were friends. He had a very sly sense of humor, but he was very quiet. And but man, their physiques are so reminiscent. But personally, I thought Akim could have gone as high as 4th.
And I'm happy you brought Akim up. I just don't, I don't know what to do, and it's difficult. I know I can't really ask you, Terrick, because you're a judge, or maybe I can ask you because it's just, what more can he do? But this guy, I talk to him all the time. Every year he's put on a little bit more size and a little bit more condition. And, he doesn't have that wow factor like a lot of bodybuilders does because he's so evenly packed with muscle. He's not like a gunslinger or a quad monster. He's just beautifully put together with just so much muscle. I mean, from the calves all the way up, this guy
he's impressive, right?
Impressive. I truly don't know what to tell him that he needs to do more to catch the judge's eye because he's doing it steady. So, but Terrick, could you answer that?
I'll tell you this. Akim Williams side poses, side chest, and side tricep.
Incredible.
If he's conditioned and he hits a side chest and a side triceps, you're talking about first call out of the Mr. Olympia. Now, Akim has not been consistent with his conditioning. There was one Mr. Olympia where he placed 6th, where his conditioning was very good. It was not perfect, and he was right there on the first call out. I believe Big Steve, Tyler, Sandy, they brought him in at the finals because his conditioning improved, from prejudging. And when Akim Williams is conditioned, he is very impressive, especially from the side poses. Now, he does have a glaring weakness, which is the back double biceps and the back lat spread. The arms highly overpower the back shots. And I was talking to Bob a few months about this. A lot of times you see the guys with big arms, and we were mentioning Ramon.
That's right.
You get to see that the back is compromised because during the workout, you're possibly emphasizing the forearm, the bicep muscle, instead of connecting to the back. So Akim Williams, condition with a back, he's right there on the first call out of the Mr. Olympia. Akim Williams, without a back, a bit soft, he's going to fall to 12th, 13th place. Ian, please.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. You know, like you said, and Akim has been 6th at the Olympia in 2020. Like you said, he was, you know, 6th place at that Olympia. His conditioning was excellent, and he got the call. You know, I think at this show, like you said, he was, you know, definitely not at his best in the pre-judging. And I think they had him in 8th, 7th or 8th after pre-judging. And then he came back significantly better on Saturday. If you look at the comparisons between Friday and Saturday, he dried up, hardened up a lot. You know, so obviously it was a peak and water issue they didn't quite get right for the Friday that he was able to dial in. You know, maybe just getting on stage and posing and sweating a bit and then sleeping on it. You know, I know it can make a big difference for some of these bigger guys. But he came back Saturday much better, and they gave him the look. And I think he actually did place ahead of John on the Saturday. I think he was 4th place on the scorecards on the Saturday, but that only brought him up from 8th to 6th. So, you know, the Friday still counts and it's still there. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, you can see as it's showing right now, the back shots are definitely, you know, what's limiting him the most, other than the times where his conditioning is not as good as it needs to be. You know, he's got those very high lat insertions, which are obviously a huge attribute on the front shots. You know, they give you that crazy bubbly out look, and the long waistline looks nice. You know, but on the back shots, it definitely hurts him a little bit. You know, there's a little bit less detail there than some of the guys, plus the high lat insertions makes it so there's not quite as much depth and width there, right?
Terrick, is this for pre-judging or night show?
I think this is the night show because he's moving in. I mean, he's getting overpowered by Rafael Brandao on the back lat spread.
Yeah.
And then you move in and you check his side tricep shot. Crazy. And he beats everybody on the lineup on the side chest. I mean, the key question is, could you imagine? Look at him.
Wow.
I mean,
he had to work his way. Flex, he wasn't even in this group in the pre-judging. It was nighttime. He got moved into this group, which is basically the second group that was out there, which I like, because it did, despite those differences. And yes, he does need a little more back, and he does tend to come a little softer in the back. I still think he's tremendous. I mean, he's got so much muscle and potential that, you know, Flex, let me ask you this, because this is something that's never really discussed, but we discuss everything. So he is dark. You're right. He's like Orville Burke dark, like Johnny Fuller dark, right? Like the only, like, does that hurt? Like the only thing separating him from midnight is 11:59. All right.
Yeah, it's midnight. Yeah, he's midnight. And we talked about this, you know, in great detail. And here's a problem I noticed, and I don't know why. Maybe it's a pigmentation or something, but I've noticed a lot of the really dark bodybuilders, it's like the light, just like they suck the light up and it doesn't pop off of them.
Right.
You know, same with Robbie Robinson. You know, it's like, and it's almost like, not only are they really dark, it's almost like they're thin. Their skin in certain areas is really thick. And I do, you know, I do think it hurts, because we do talk about a person when they have a beautiful color and their color is just perfect and the oil and it bounces off of them and it looks great. So obviously, if that's not working for him, it is hurting him. And watching this video, I'm looking at him, you know, and it's almost the same with Samson, you know, but it's like somehow Samson is figuring it out. But still, when Samson turns around, even when he's in mint condition, you look at his skin and his back, and it's like thicker than it is in other places. I truly don't know what it is, but you are spot on with that. We had that discussion, and I don't know what they can do about it, actually.
I mean, you got to go Sammy Sosa, bro.
Yeah, but you know what? You know, when we do talk about him, Akim, and his back, we're talking about his upper body not being up to par, you know, which it is. And I see that in these shots here. You know, unfortunately, I couldn't get a ticket, so I was sitting in the hotel. You know, this 4-time Arnold champion.
What do you mean you couldn't get a ticket?
Didn't they just do an award for you, like a Lifetime Achievement Award?
Yeah, hey, listen, I was on the phone with them. Obviously, I was with a very big company that sponsors all the shows for IFBB now. And I was there, and they knew I was coming with this company. I actually talked to some officials at the Arnold, and they said, yeah, go ahead and speak to this particular person to see if you're going to get tickets or not. Bob, you probably know who that person is. A lot of us don't get along with him. And I said, if I have to speak to him, I'm not coming. You know, it's not going to happen.
Why didn't you call me?
I was a bit embarrassed. I don't want this to be about me. I was a bit embarrassed that I couldn't even freaking like get tickets. But you know, where do we draw the line? Like his back isn't superior as a lot of the other guys, but when he turns around, right?
Yeah.
He is super superior, muscular, conditioned, small waist, and when he turns it aside, we're all agreeing. Wow, he shuts the house down. So how does that work when two poses he loses?
Yeah.
He wins in more other poses or whatnot. You know, it's a great argument. It's a great debate.
Well, here's the problem. It's half of them, right? Like when we go upper body, lower body, that's half. The front of you and the back of you is half and half, right? So that's a big thing to be missing. Like that's bigger than if you're just missing, you need some bigger arms or, your calves ain't great or something like that. You can't, Lionel Bayecki was the same way, right?
Yeah.
This guy come out from the front. This guy's winning the show from the front. He turns around. I got him in 8th.
Yeah, look, I mean, just the back pose you're just showing. You look at Samson and Akim. It's just I don't understand it. And you know what? Historically, other than I'm gonna go way back to Roy Callender. Remember him? He was like, in my opinion, he was one of the first brothers.
Flex.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We'll go right back to Roy Callender, but right here on the front lat spread, because he has the high insertions, like Ian said. And I even think that maybe the chest is not that powerful. I don't think he is as successful on this pose. I actually think Rafael looks a little bit better than Samson, and obviously Hadi beats everybody on this pose. But it's more than just. And then right here on the side chest, he just looks like King Kong next to these guys. I mean, his density,
pose, right? His chest is absolutely bonkers, right? So we can all agree that this guy has more chest. He's like puking chest up, right? What the problem is, and we discussed this, he doesn't know how to pose properly. And that front lat spread, his chest, if he brought it up and rolled up, his chest will be pushing his neck up and his head up. He just doesn't know how to pose properly, even in his back pose. Look at it, Terrick. His arms are too high, which makes his lats look even higher. Right, he needs to bring that down, and he needs to roll back and push back, and he's not doing it. He needs look at that.
He needs some instruction from the Flex Wheeler School of Posing, is what he needs.
Yeah. So you know what? I think we all know, and I know Ian knows this because he's still currently posing, competing. You can
Ian Valliere is retired.
Recently retired. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, damn, I didn't know that. I'm on a late show, but. Listen, it doesn't matter how great a physique you have when you don't know how to pose. Now, saying that, I know this is true, Terrick. It's even worse when you have upper high lats and you still don't know how to pose. That's even worse. That's like, that's pretty bad, and that's his fault.
Yeah, Ian. We don't want to put you in a awkward situation, but there's a lot of people. Of course I do. But there's a lot of people that watch this Arnold Classic, and they said, Iain Valliere best Olympia placing was 7th place.
Sure.
Rafael's best Olympia placing was 10th. If Ian was there, he would have been on that first call out. Does this cross your mind, or you're just, that ship has sailed?
No, I mean, look, I'm not trying to take anything or compare myself to these guys. Like Bob said earlier in the show, when we were talking about Hadi and Derek, they're different shows, they're different lineups. I mean, just because I was 7th at one Olympia or 2 Olympias doesn't mean anything in this lineup. Do I think that at my best I could, party with these guys? Sure. But is that something that I'm like, I sit in the stands and I'm like, oh, I wish I could get? No. I mean, I'm happy with the career I had in bodybuilding. And honestly, I'm just a fucking fan of bodybuilding, man. I just love to watch this stuff. And for me to sit in the crowd and watch it, and these guys are these are all my friends that I competed with for a long time. To just sit there and watch them and support them, honestly, I'm having a lot of fun in the stands. I'm not itching to get back up there at all. I just like watching it as a fan, right?
Well, so Ian, I'm also a fan of bodybuilding, and I would love to have you hit a front lat spread next to these guys.
I was going to say, man, you're early retired. Seeing that a lot of these guys aren't doing their jobs, and it's leaving holes for other people to step up. That doesn't make you think like, damn, I left at the wrong time.
No, I mean, maybe if I felt there was like an itch I hadn't scratched, but you know, when I started bodybuilding, I accomplished a lot more than I ever set out to. And I can sleep fine at night. Look, am I going to love bodybuilding to the day I die? And will I still love training like a bodybuilder and hanging out with bodybuilders and talking about bodybuilding like we are right now? 100% I will. But in terms of getting on stage, no, I mean, it doesn't excite me like it used to. And that was part of why I decided to retire. You know, there's obviously so much that goes into bodybuilding, and you really have to have a passion for it to be a competitive bodybuilder. I'm very passionate about bodybuilding in many other ways, but from being as a competitive bodybuilder, that passion had started to leave me at the later years of my career. So, you know, I'm happy to be on the other side and, you know, talk shop with you guys and on my podcast with, you know, Fouad and the guys, and sit in the stands and watch as a fan, man. You know, I like being on this side of it for sure.
Well, at least
No, Bob, Milo Sarcev and Samson Dauda, they cut ties. We don't know what happened. We can only speculate, but
Smartly.
We can look back in history and come to the conclusion that a lot of Samson Dauda's improvement has been made under Samson Dauda. You know, a lot of these coaches, you know, all these guys, Chris Aceto, Chad Nichols.
Right.
If you had to pick one coach for Samson Dauda, who would it be, Bob Ciccarello?
Neil Hill. That's an easy one. I respect Neil. I love his protocol. I'm very familiar with the how he trains these guys, his mental approach to it. He's just an all-around great guy. And there's some great coaches out there, but whoever he picks, and I don't know who he's picked yet. I would think that Neil would be up there on that list, but he needs a change. I mean, listen, him and Milos did some good work together early on, but clearly the last 48-hour protocol, let's just leave it at that, is not working, and it hasn't worked. And he's been fortunate because he got himself an Arnold Classic title. He's been in contention at the Olympia. But again, at 90%, which is what he's coming in at, he'll never do any better than he's doing right now. And he will always get beat by somebody like a Hadi, like a Terrick. Rafael Brandao's coming up, right? You got some new blood that's coming in now. And all of a sudden, you get what we call diminishing returns. And what you don't want to see is a guy like a Samson Dauda, who has every aspect that you need to be a Mr. Olympia, to never realize his potential. So I applaud this move. Like I said, I did see the post that Milos put out. You know, it's nice to see something end amicably for once, you know, because we see so much bickering and all that garbage. So it's just a good time. You know, it's like a great an NFL coach, you know, who's kind of worn out his welcome, like an Andy Reid, right? And discovers a new career with a new team. That's what Samson needs to get on top. Again, I've said this once. I'll say it again. If Samson Dauda ever hits 95%, doesn't need to be 100, 95%, he's your new Mr. Olympia.
Agreed.
Ian,
is that true that I just seen somebody just said that he hired Hani? Did you guys just see that?
No, they're speculating here. They're speculating.
Okay.
I don't think he's an.
What Bob said too. I mean, it's good to know too that Rafael and the progress, and he's been working with Neil Hill as well. So I mean, you know, he made massive improvements here, and that's under the new tutelage of Neil as well. So it'd be cool to see them in the same camp. By
the way, I did hear that James Hollingshead also got rid of Milos. Don't know if that's true, but I did hear that someplace.
Yeah, well, to my knowledge, and I'm not going to speak for anyone other than what I believe to know true, is that James really did his prep himself. You know, and I think he really wanted to just try doing things himself and then just kind of, you know, toss things by Milos here and there. But I think when I spoke to Milos at the Arnold Classic, as well as from what I've had speaking to James, even Milos did concede that, you know, James was doing the majority of his prep by himself.
Okay. You know, I thought James looked pretty damn good. The only thing that he had going against him was his midsection.
Yes.
But everything else, he looked like he put on muscle. Conditioning could have been a little sharper, but it was decent. But the midsection was just killing him.
Yeah, no, that's always going to be something that, you know, he's got those very shallow abs. And when he elongates, especially in those front shots, you know, they completely wash out, is going to hurt him for sure. You know, until he can get a little more detail in those, he's always going to be limited in those shots for sure. But he's, you know, very dense. His side shots are great. You know, he could obviously be a little wider in the back, but there's a lot of gnarly muscle there. You know, and he's just a big, thick, nasty looking guy, right? So, yeah, I agree that it was one of his better packages for sure.
Yeah, I like James Hollingshead. I judged these guys in 2019 in the UK. Nathan Diasha won, Samson got second, and James Hollinshead got third. And I said, man, there's some British bodybuilding going on. And ironically enough, Charles Claremont was in the audience. We got to talk, and I said, Charles, is this the renaissance of British bodybuilding? And it turns out to be. So congratulations to UK, Samson Dauda, James Hollinshead. Hopefully Nathan Diasha comes back. He's a fiery guy, and we'll get to see all of them. Now, Ian, and the reason I really like inviting you, Ian, is because when I watch you on other podcasts, I love how you say whatever you want. For that matter, I think Bob, myself, and Flex envy you because we can't say whatever we want. But based on what you saw at the Arnold Classic and how big Nick Walker was exploding on that T-shirt,
huge.
Give me the top 6 Olympia from 6th, 5th, 4th,
Hey,
3rd,
that's early.
2nd. The reason I do this is because in 2022 we did this and it was early, and Bob Ciccarello said Hadi Chupin is going to win the Olympia, and everybody was surprised, and Bob turned out to be right. Now, you know Bob, he's not a self-centered, egotistical guy. You know, he was very humble when he said that.
Absolutely.
And he continues to be very humble. But I give him full credit. He got it right. So I'm giving you the opportunity to get it right. 6th place at the Olympia.
Wow.
All right. So this is a long shot here. We're far out. There's still a lot of guys we got to see, but I'll give it a whirl just for fun.
Terrick, and this is what everybody's showing up 100% or the best condition, right?
Yeah, everybody's 100%.
Okay.
Well, okay, I won't do everyone at 100%. I'm going to do it based off what I think they will turn up at the Olympia.
That's even better.
What I think where their trajectory is, like, because I mean, I can't say if Samson's at 100%, you know, because we haven't seen that yet, so I don't want to say that, you know. So I'll give it on what I believe to be true. I'm going to go Hadi to regain his title. I'm going to go Derek, a very close second. I think that'll be the 1-2. I think Samson's going to remain in 3rd place. I think you're going to have. No, I'm going to change that. I'm going to put Nick Walker in 3rd place. I'm going to put Samson in 4th place. I'm going to put Brandon in 5th place. And then I'm going to Andrew Jacked in 6th place.
Man,
I wouldn't want that one. Wow. Good job. Yeah.
That's actually
Bob going
that's
over
actually.
This is tough. Well, see, you know, I hate this because there's so many unknown. Like, is Rami competing? Like, is he coming back in?
Well,
you know,
what do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean you hate this? Without speculation, we wouldn't have a job.
I'll have to say though, and I'm going to say this,
bro. We've had one show so far.
Wait, I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to piss anybody off with this. If Rami is in the lineup, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, if Rami's in the lineup, I'm still not changing my top 6.
Okay. Oh. Well, listen, I think that's very fair, right? I mean, you know, there's only so much speculation we can do, obviously. And then again, you got okay, does everybody show up at 100%? Do we go by like what Ian's saying? Or I'm going to go with what I think they're going to show up like and all that. Yeah. And then hopefully there's a spoiler in there. I would love to see somebody new, like an Andrew Jack. You know, he's got potential, but we haven't quite seen it realized yet. By the way, I know Jack originally was going in the Arnold, then he bailed out. He's not going in the UK, is he?
I don't believe so, no.
I don't think so. Yeah, I did hear there was speculation whether Rubio could get there on a visa. I've actually heard that Hadi might not be able to get there.
Yeah,
with visa issues. So we really don't even know what this line. This could be. I mean, we did hear obviously that Samson is back in the mix. Thank God. You know, we're all hoping that nothing was serious with that. By the way, I don't want to get off on a rant here, but Samson puts out. I would never have suggested he did put it out, but he did. The video, he's ill, he doesn't feel good, he's you know, feels like he's gonna die, right? The whole thing. Okay. Again, I wouldn't have put that information out there, but he did, right? The whole internet goes stupid, right? And all these threads start popping up with, oh, they're dropping like flies. We got to do something. We got to do something about the sport. This people, take a breath here, will you? Listen, the guy was overly dehydrated, right? Went to the hospital, got checked out. Okay, listen, he's good, right? They're not dropping like flies. How many bodybuilders have died on the stage ever?
Yeah. You also got to remember,
none.
I mean, and we know how it is too. You know, you're at the Arnold, you're working a booth, you're shaking hands, you're touching 10,000 people a weekend. I mean, even I'm like, I got some conjunctivitis bullshit going on, you know. You're touching a bajillion people, you're getting on planes, you know, all this kind of stuff. You know, you combine that with, you know, a slightly reduced immune system from obviously the stresses that preparing for a show, especially those last few days, put on you, you know, the dehydration, the dieting, all that kind of stuff. You know, you pair that with, you know, shaking a billion hands. You know, it's definitely not out of the, you know, in a wild thing to happen. And from what I believe, that's all it was, is he had kind of like a quick bug that was in and out, you know, combined with a little bit of dehydration, you know, and just was feeling like a little sick and fluey, got himself checked out. He was completely fine. He is saying he's 100% doing the Arnold UK.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
By the way, you tend to not feel as good when you lose, right? Like, I get the idea if he'd won, you wouldn't have seen any video or anything like that.
I'm sorry, Bob. Say that one more time.
It says people always tend to feel a little bit worse too when you lose, right? You know, like if he wins the show, I'm not so sure you see any video or any type of illusion of it. Probably just would have rode it through a few days and then on to the Arnold UK. But you know, I'm sure he was very dejected. I'm sure he could taste that title. But he lives to fight another day, thank God. But I'm just a little amazed at people that they just jump on this bandwagon like, you know, like this is a big epidemic here. It's not, folks. And by the numbers, it's not.
So the internet went crazy when he made that and started speculating?
Oh, God, Flex. It's all I seen was people, threads all over the place. Yeah. You know, we need to do something as a community, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what do you want us to do as a community? What is there to do exactly, okay? It's an individual sport. We're not a team or anything like that. People do what they're going to do. Listen, sometimes shit happens, right? Like Ian said, sometimes you get a cold. You got to compromise the immune system. We've all been there, right? You compete. You feel like dog on a day of the show if you're really looking good, right? You're probably at your worst when you're at your best, you know, health-wise, right? We all know that, right? Then you tack on shaking hands and kissing babies and all that stuff. Flying, eating foods you're not used to eating, right? Taking foods with you, that always doesn't go great. There's a lot of things that go into this, but let's not make it sound like half the lineup was in the hospital after the show. One guy didn't feel that great, made the smart move and went to the hospital just to get checked out. And he was good. Thank God. Right. But all that, but let's not make it sound like I say, this is an across the board epidemic that we have with bodybuilders dropping at every show.
Bob, you know, you look at Phil Heath, he looks incredible. Dennis James, Lee Haney, Dorian Yates, Arnold Schwarzenegger, they all look incredible, you know. I mean, Flex Wheeler, he looks healthy. Obviously, he had his leg problem. I look at you look healthy. Chris Cormier. I mean, look at Iain Valliere. I know he's recently retired, but he's growing hair. His beard is like peptide beer. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, all of everybody is healthy, and in the end of the day, I'm not quite sure what the agenda is, but bodybuilding teaches you how to eat properly, teaches you your body, your physique, teaches you a lot of things. And if people were dropping like flies, you wouldn't see Lee Haney on stage, Arnold, Dorian Yates is working out. Everybody is here. Everybody is around. It's an incredible sport of self-discovery. But
listen, for the numbers, okay? I can guarantee if you just throw up Google as your best friend, bodybuilding isn't even in the top 10 of athletes that have died in others. Every year they die at the marathon. Football players drop on the field, unfortunately. Soccer players have died this last couple of years, mostly probably because of the vaccines and all that garbage, right? But we're not even close to the amount of athletes that die. Listen, it's life. People die sometimes from different things. There's 100 reasons why.
Yeah. Well, Ian, so there's some speculation that you're going to start judging bodybuilding shows. Talk to me about your intention on judging bodybuilding shows.
Sure. I've actually already judged one. So I've already began that venture. I judged my last one at the end of 2023, November of 2023. just a show here in Canada. And I have a few more lined up within Canada this year that I'm going to be judging. So looking forward to do more of those. And, one day maybe get up and judge some bigger shows. And, the goal for every judge is obviously judging Olympia, especially for me as a fan of bodybuilding and a bodybuilder myself. So, just taking it show by show and having fun with it. And, in a sport that I love and I'm passionate about. Right.
Amazing.
Yeah, Ian, I've been judging since 2006. Since you're the rookie in this kind of field, I have 736 feedbacks on my email. Can I just forward them to you?
Yeah, that's even when I judged the first show, I'll be just in the local show. Right after that, my Instagram was every single competitor in the show sending me a DM asking for feedback. So and I can understand how it could get. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Terrick,
here's
a good trivia for us all, especially you, Terrick. Do we have can you think of any top 10 men's Olympians who have gone on to judge the Olympia?
I can.
I think Dorian Yates attempted to judge, right?
Well, but I mean, I'm not talking like locally.
You mean that judged the Olympia and been at the Olympia?
Correct.
I can think of one.
Who?
He was the oldest bodybuilder to ever compete.
Oh, Albert Beckles.
There
you go. There you go. Ah, good one, Flex.
Great,
yeah, that might be the last guy.
I think it might be. If you say the criteria is that they competed in the Olympia and judged the Olympia, he's the only one I know of. Other than, well, no, we got to say Linda Murray, also.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, but she doesn't judge.
She hasn't
I don't
judged?
think Linda is judging, no.
Okay. She's never judged the Olympia.
Yeah.
No, Albert, I think I'm talking top. Ian's been obviously in the top 7, which is very impressive, obviously. But I think that's another great new goal, Ian. And I'm going to nominate Flex Wheeler to be sitting right next to you. I think he wants to start judging.
No. I'll watch. I don't think I'll be a good judge.
So Terrick, whatever strings you got to pull here, get these things moving along, get me up there, right?
Well, Ian, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of, obviously being a bodybuilder is a huge asset into becoming a judge. Now, a lot of times I tell people that judge shows, your hardest day judging will be when you test judge as a national show. So when you go to the nationals or the USAs or the North Americans and you have a class of bikini competitors with 58 competitors.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And they're coming in so fast and the head judge is changing in the middle and then you got to write it down and your scores have to match 90%. That is one of the toughest parts of being a judge is passing the national test. Yeah. Once you pass the national test, then you start judging pro shows. And listen, there's pressure. I went to judge shows where I was like, man, this is a tough environment here. I remember I was judging in Tunisia in 2018, and I had some Iranian guys versus the Saudi guys, and it was quite tense. And you got to handle the pressure. You got to make the right decision. It's been a tremendous career for me. And the greatest thing about being a judge is the relationship I've developed with the competitors. I mean, I remember when you took 7th place. I also remember when you went out of the top 10. And I went straight to you when you went out of the top 10 to tell you're a great bodybuilder. When Blessing Awodibu had his biggest disappointment, I went back to talk to him. When Derek Lunsford placed 4th in the 212, I was there talking to him, trying to help him. So for me, the best part of judging has been the relationship with the competitors. They have trusted me. They've called me for advice. And it's a wonderful, wonderful career because I've been able to truly help competitors, even at their worst, when they're crying, when they took 15th and they're down and nobody's giving them attention. I'll be the guy there trying to help them. And that has made my heart full of joy.
No, I can definitely see that. I mean, it's, something like that. And like you said, you were the first person that time, when I had that disappointing, my last Olympia, you were the first guy back there, giving me some words of wisdom and, giving me just, when you're in that low spot, just telling you that, hey, shit happens, you're a great bodybuilder. You're going to come back better. And I did. And I came back and won Toronto as my last show. So, it's always appreciated, having that someone there for that, for sure. Yeah.
So Terrick,
Absolutely. It would
we're
be a great
talking
honor to
bodybuilding.
judge with you, Ian.
No, thank you.
Terrick, we got to talk some classic here. You're not under the gun. You don't have to, the dinner's not ready yet, is it? Anything like that? We got a couple minutes?
Bob, the Olympia Live, we talk about everything. Everything you want to talk about.
We got to talk about classic.
Somebody here said that I look gay, and I'm like, I take that as a compliment because all my gay friends are in better shape than me, look younger than me, and have more money than me. So I'm putting on a good face, So
we'll talk about your gayness later. But listen, Wesley Vissers lit that stage up, puts himself as a top contender against Bumstead now, which is really interesting. That's a whole topic in itself.
Yeah. Ramon
slips, but I got to mention Breon, right? We've been talking about this for the last 2 years. Breon, I know you're watching this. Will you please, for the love of God, go to the 212?
Yeah. No. Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ian.
No, I thought the Wesley was very, very impressive. I think there was a combination of factors at play here. I think Ramon beat himself in some ways, that he definitely wasn't the Ramon that was at the Olympia. And Wesley on that same day showed up the best Wesley that has ever stepped on a stage and took advantage of that. Absolutely. And won himself an Arnold Classic title, the second biggest title there is in bodybuilding. So huge congratulations to him. We definitely have a very exciting group of guys right now going into this Olympia. Where is Wesley going to stack up to 100% Ramon? What's he going to look like standing next to Chris? There's a whole bunch of good storylines here that I'm very excited to watch.
Yeah, I believe Chris Bumstead, he was not at his best in 2023. His conditioning, especially at prejudging, was not his best, but he still won the show. And that is one of the scariest things about Chris Bumstead, is when you're not at your best and you still win the show. And Ramon looked incredible, but Chris defeated him. Chris Bumstead's best performance was 2022. I thought he looked unbelievable. Now, the most impressive one is 2023, because when you win a show not at your best, then you're joining the likes of Phil Heath, Ronnie Coleman. 2001, he wasn't at his best, and he still won the show. So I commend Chris Bumstead. Chris Bumstead's biggest enemy is injuries.
Yes.
That's his biggest enemy, okay? If his body is healthy, he has a pretty good chance to remain the champion. But, and I've seen him. He comes from Iain Valliere's school of lifting heavy bodybuilding. I went to shoot with these guys in Florida a couple years ago, and they're not the new generation bodybuilders. Chris Bumstead is an old soul when it comes to his work at the gym. He likes to lift heavy. And when you lift heavy, you're more prone to injury. Do I think Ramon is forgotten now because he plays second? Absolutely not. I think Ramon might be as focused and as hungry as he's ever been. Yeah. I think Urs Kalaczynski needs to respond immediately. And I think Wesley Vissers has his work cut out, because now people are going to start looking at how good he is, but some of the improvements, the separation between hamstrings and glutes, can the legs be a little bit bigger? Because now you're also going to be scrutinized like the other guys. But they're doing an amazing job, and I commend all of them. I think Chris might be a step ahead, but anything can happen. If injuries happen or conditioning is not there, somebody might come in and snatch it.
Yeah. And I, with what you said, I think this was a blip on the radar of Ramon. I don't expect to see him lose to Wesley very often. I think Wesley is awesome, so that's not a knock against him. If I'm making predictions today, like I did for the Open, I'm still putting Ramon in second place. I'm not going to move him down just because he lost once to Wesley. I think, like you said, he is laser focused after this one. I think he kind of got a rude awakening. From what I heard, he didn't have the longest prep for this show, and that he's going to absolutely make sure, to do his due diligence for the Olympia, and make sure that he is back up in the running to win that title and fight Chris like he did last year. So, I have him still as the second best guy right now.
Okay, I have never enough.
Oh, yeah.
Terrick, let us stop dodging the bullet with your thought about Arnold raising the prize money to 500,000. What are you guys going to do about it? These guys deserve a lot more.
What do you
I'm
mean,
going to
what
go
do
to
you
the
guys- like,
ATM
it's our- like,
machine
it's our
right now.
top?
I'm
Yeah,
going to go to the ATM
what are you
machine.
going to do about this?
Yeah, we
Let
yeah.
the MX
I'm
out.
gonna go to the ATM machine right now and see
Yeah.
if I can get $100,000. And if it comes out, I'll put it down on the prize money.
I
But
didn't even know you were in charge of that stuff, bro. That's impressive.
You know, yeah, you really need to do something about this, Terrick. You
Damn.
know?
I
You really
mean,
should.
I have a wife and 2 kids. I'm a mere mortal, my friend. You know.
All right, listen, I'll tackle this one if you're good with it. So Arnold made the big proclamation. Listen, I'm all for it, right? God bless the money to the athletes. They've been waiting for years. This is long overdue. Prize money should have been increased years ago. So I'm all for increasing prize money. Now, how does it relate to the Olympia? Well, first of all, the Olympia is already in. First of all, he hasn't given away $500,000 yet. He just said he wants to for next year. Okay, not saying that Arnold isn't going to follow through, but the Olympia doesn't have to do a damn thing this year. Okay, they're going to run the Olympia as they always do. The Olympia gives away a lot more money overall than the Arnold does, and represents all 11 divisions. It's help me out here, Terrick, 2 or 3, 1.3 million, I think.
$1.3 million. Yes.
Okay. 1.3 million. Okay, that's a lot of money. And again, you have all the divisions represented. There's almost 400 athletes that are going to qualify this year. That's a lot of money to be flying people in, putting them up, and paying for them. Now, this isn't to defend anybody. It's just to put the facts out there. Okay. Now, hopefully the Olympia would follow suit. I would love to see that. And I tell you what I would do. This is just purely my own hypothetical, right? This year, Olympia and Jake, God bless him, he's increased the prize money every year, whether it's in other divisions, right? The women's division, some of those he's brought up. I would continue to do that. I would wait until all that's set in stone for the Arnold. Then next year in February, I would announce a $1 million prize for the Mr. Olympia. That would be cool.
Do you guys really think it's going to happen? Because this isn't the first time, right?
Huh?
It's not the first time that Arnold wanted to. Bless his heart. He's an athlete. He knows how hard we need to work, and he knows what it's like not to have money. So This isn't the first time that Arnold screamed out, "I'm going to get more prize money." It has to be, if I understand, it has to be regulated and approved by, the committee. So I don't think it's going to happen. Do you guys?
Well,
Forget the talk. I'm saying, do you think it's going to happen or not?
Well, let me just interject this first, Flex. So, for those who don't know how it works, okay, the IFBB is a sanctioning body. Okay, what Arnold has said in the past is that the only reason he didn't increase it was because he had a handshake deal with Ben and Joe back in the day that he would never put the money over the Olympia, that he would kind of respect that and all that stuff. Well, as Arnold explained, and he said this in the athletes meeting that he was at on Thursday, and then again on stage to a degree, Joe and Ben are gone, with all due respect. So he feels as though that moratorium on it has kind of ended. And I think Arnold's sensing, listen, he's what, 77 now or something thereof? I think if you're going to listen, this isn't against anybody. This is good for business, right? Let him increase it to 500,000. Let the Olympia follow suit. Let all the promoters, because at the end of the day, it's the athletes who have gotten the raw end of the deal for too many years now. We were bitching about $10,000 shows back in the day, Flex. That was, some of them are still $10,000, right?
Yeah,
until the pro league
went up to 15 like a joke.
Well,
you're right.
now again, to keep things real, give credit where it's due. Jim and Tyler both came out with a statement this year saying that they had a sponsor. They were putting that money and they were matching the prize money at all the men's open shows. So they're all getting bumped up by 10,000. So they're all going to pretty much double, for the winner. Great move. Applaud that move. But good for the athletes, man. I hope listen, every Coke needs a Pepsi, right?
Yep. Yep. And that great company I'm a part of that threw that money into. But so you're saying that you think it's actually going to happen. And again, so you also think the IFBB committee will allow it to happen this time?
I think if I'm, and I can't speak for Jim in the pro league, but I've obviously known him many years and I'm involved in a whole lot of things. If I'm Jim Mannion, okay, I don't have to listen. I'm hands off. Hey, we sanction the show. You want to give away 500,000? Yeah. God bless you. Right. Yeah. Jake, you want to match that or go above him or give away $1 million? God bless you. But he doesn't have, the pro league does not have to take a stance in the competition between promoters or shows and giving away more prize money. I think they would sit back and welcome it too.
Ian, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bob. I think it's awesome for the athletes. And I think, you know, to maybe get a little, you know, tit for tat going between them wouldn't be the worst thing that ever happened, you know? And I also don't think, like you said, I don't think the Olympia has to do anything either. I mean, I think it would be great if they did, but I mean, it's still the Olympia at the end of the day. And I don't think it's going to be like, oh, no one's going to do the Olympia because the prize money is less than the Arnold. I still think it is, you know, the premier title in bodybuilding. And it does bring out the premier lineups. And when you talk about, you know, titles in bodybuilding, we talk about how many Olympia wins you have as the premier thing, and Arnold's being kind of the second one after that. You know, so I don't think that's going to change just because of purse money. You know, I think a title is a title and purses are secondary to that. But I mean, you know, like I said, I think that more prize money in the hands of the athletes is always great. And like you said, they do the sponsorship to some of the men's open. And like you asked me before, if I was, you know, getting back on stage after watching the Arnold, I mean, the only thing that made me want to get back there is the prize money increases. That's for sure.
Keep in mind, everybody out there, the Arnold is, even though it's the second most prestigious show we have, and it's very special because of Arnold, it's still a qualifier for the Olympia.
Correct.
All right. We can't lose focus of that. Okay. It's a qualifier for the Olympia will always reign supreme in the title and the history and the house that Joe built and now continued by Jake Wood and all that stuff. So I say sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Let's all hope it goes up for everybody.
Yeah, let's have that hard conversation. I hope it goes up too, right? I definitely do. I mean, we're competitors and we wish we got it paid more, but let's, if you allow me, let's dive in this deeper. The Olympia is a prestige show, right? The #1 show. It was the first show. It came before the Arnold, so it had a lot of time. And Olympia was always a higher dollar amount show. So I think that's where the prestige came from. It was never the prize money or anything like that. But now times have changed. You're talking, you know, 59 years now. Times have changed now. So in my argument, in my thought, if Arnold raises money to that amount and the Olympia doesn't respond, not this year, next year, right? They don't have to respond. If they don't respond next year, I think there is now an argument of what is a premier show, because I think now, today's time, right? We cared about the Olympia title back in our time, but today's time, the athletes, I think, care more about money than they do a title. Therefore, I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation if the Olympia doesn't respond, because I think these athletes of today will jump into the Arnold first, and that'd be their premier show, and secondary as like a backup game, go to the Olympia, unlike people warm up for the Arnold going into the Olympia. I think that might change simply because of the money. That's a possibility. What do you guys think?
Let's explore this too. Okay. Hopefully this was just a dam. And now that dam breaks open, well, listen, you got other promoters out there, especially in the Middle East, like the Bodybuilder, right? Who are not shy with the tech.
What I was about to say.
And they're dying to increase their prize money. So I hope this thing explodes for the betterment of the sport. The athletes, it's going to do nothing but good for everybody. And to address the pink elephant in the room, okay? For all you ladies out there, and I saw a whole bunch of stuff out there, this is unfair. I saw Iris Kyle put something out. This needs to be equal, equitable, and all that. No, it doesn't. Okay, listen, it's called return on investment. It's called business, okay? The best thing that you ladies can do is hope the prize money goes up for the guys and all that stuff, because that will trickle down to you guys. Exactly. Just like the WNBA is subsidized by the NBA. The LPGA is subsidized by the PGA, okay? The more money the guys make, the more money there is for the ladies, because the ladies on their own do not sell enough tickets to sustain themselves. Flex, you and I have been around long enough, and I'm sure Ian and Terrick remember this as well, just from their studies, okay? We did have the ladies stuff on their own back in the day. Friday night was ladies' night at the Olympia. And if you remember, Flex, and I know you do, We'd
Yeah.
only sell 3-4 rows of people.
Yeah, it's
This was
you're very right.
Well, and to answer a question that people have, okay, that's why the prejudging ended up on Friday night, because we had to do something to offset. Friday, we were getting our ass handed to us. Saturday, we had a full house of 10,000 people. So we moved the prejudging on the Friday onto ladies' night, okay, because there wasn't enough interest and there wasn't enough ticket sales. So it's got, there's a difference between fair and equitable.
Yeah, let's give Jake Wood his play. He's the reason that the women's sport got a rebirth. And let me also say this: am I not wrong, Bob and Terrick? You guys will be closer to this. Wasn't the last raise for the women anyway? It wasn't for the men. Didn't they raise the women without raising the men? So it's not like they're not etching up in there and doing that. But you're right; it's called the return. You know, the ROI on that. And sadly, that's just the way it is. But didn't they just raise the women's prize money?
Yeah, well, if you look at the Olympia prize money for all the categories, it's $50,000 for the winner. It turns out to be around $90,000 per category, right? So you know, the winner in the wellness at the Arnold Classic gets paid $7,000. At the Olympia, gets paid $50,000. Now you throw in $90,000 women's physique, $90,000 women bodybuilding, $90,000 figure.
Right.
You know, so if Jake, which I know for a fact he would never do that, Jake is a very, very conscious man about the legacy of Joe Weider. If Jake wanted to eliminate those 3 classes and give an extra $300,000, he could have easily done that. But Jake just did a Masters Olympia, which gave $225,000.
All on him.
You know, all on. So I mean, I think Jake loves the fact that people are actually coming up to his level. You know what I mean? I think Jake is like, hey, guys, you know, I'm glad you guys wanted to compete with me. I was by myself here, you know, putting millions of dollars. You guys want to join the party? I'm all about it. But
let me do a little business. Let me do a little business.
And put $100,000 more here. Take 100. But I think Jake is the Olympia fly at a high altitude. It's more than just the prize money. If the prize money goes to 500,000, 600,000, if it stays the same, the Olympia has been around since 1965. You know, it's a legacy that cannot be matched. But I think everybody is happy that the prize money is going up, not only for the Arnold, but also for the New York Pro is going up. A lot of the other shows, Tyler announced that now the winner gets 15,000. So, hey, we're moving forward in a great direction. Hey, how about the Arnold? If they put the Arnold Masters, right? Hey, go do the Arnold Masters in Austria. Put down $225,000, just like the Olympia did, by all means. There's the Romania Muscle Fest. There's the Rising Phoenix. Those are all Jake's shows. You know, Arnold has the money.
Let me put this in perspective for people out there, because they ain't getting it, okay? It's just a little business 101, everybody, okay? First of all, I do think the Arnold should have all the divisions, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. I don't like the idea that they don't have them, but that's up to them. But let's just take that for a second. They don't have 4 divisions: women's bodybuilding, women's physique, figure, and the 212, okay? If you're the promoter of this show, if you're Arnold, okay, all 4 of those have a sanction fee. All 4 of those have prize money, okay? The sanction fees, I don't even know what it is at that level, okay, but it's a decent chunk of change. But the prize money, okay, if you're giving away $10,000 for first place on each of those, okay, then it's about a $20,000 purse total. You know, obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's $20,000 times 4 divisions, okay? You're already up to 80 grand. You haven't paid a sanction fee yet. And now you got to fly the athletes there.
70 to 100,000 for Olympia.
You're looking for those 4 divisions. If you do the math and you figure everything out per diem, flying people there, hotels, blah blah blah, it's a little over $100,000 for those 4 divisions. How many ticket sales do they sell on those 4 divisions? The answer is not many. Okay, 99% of the people are there for the men's bodybuilding. And that includes, obviously, classic as well. And maybe there's a smattering for bikini. That's about it, folks. Okay, trust me, we've done this math on this stuff. $100,000 with no return is not a good business idea. Okay, that's how it works, but that's why it's not equitable, because it doesn't play out like that.
But Bob, there's another factor here. There's another factor here.
$50,000 with the sanction.
I just want to mention something. Sometimes the return on investment is not only financial, right? You know, the Olympia and the Arnold, they both put on the wheelchair division, which we all know it doesn't have a lot of amateur shows, right? But it's a tremendous representation of what the sport means, which is, you know, your ability to overcome adversity. They're not going to get Arnold, Jake Wood, you know, they're not going to get the return on investment financially. But when a young man who has a disability watches somebody competing in the wheelchair division, it changes their life. And there's no price on that. I commend every promoter that goes into it and puts money, not knowing if they're going to get the return. I think Arnold did a great job saying, hey, I want to pay the bodybuilders more. I think he mentioned he wants to go ahead and do the same for the women, because he also feels the pressure. Well, I'm giving more money for bodybuilding, but, you know, the Olympia has all the categories. I don't. Or maybe the Olympia is paying a lot more for the female category. So listen, it's all great for the sport. I think we are at the peak of the bodybuilding. You know, I love the men's physique. I love the rivalry in the women's physique, Natalia Coelho and Sarah Viegas. And, you know, I think people are making a big deal about this, but during COVID, we had the Arnold Classic and the Olympia happening. And that just shows to everybody who thinks that, you know, it's really about money. It's not. Because Jake Wood and Arnold put the money during those times because it was more important to them than money. So we are very lucky to have them doing this, promoting bodybuilding events and wanting to pay more money. So I love what's happening, and I think it's great. And I think the sport is reaching new heights. The IFBB Pro League and the NPC expanded exponentially worldwide because we treat the athletes better. We want to pay them more money. I mean, we got a great problem here, Bob. We're paying people more money. We're facing an inflation on prize money.
Well, listen, the problem is it's a society we live in today where everybody feels entitled. They feel as though I should get as much as this guy. But, you know, listen, the guy in last place probably worked just as hard as the guy in first place, okay? But if you said, well, we're going to give that guy just as much money as the winner, you go, oh, wait a minute. It's a competition. It doesn't work. Well, guess what putting shows on is? It's a competition, right? Well, you have to put things that put money back in the pocket in order to maintain these. Ian knows this. Again, he's dealt with shows for years, promoters, things like that. It's the same. I don't care whether you're in America, Canada, or overseas. It's the same MO, but you got to, and for those who already want to jump on me because they're like, oh, wait a minute. What about all the women that, you know, they make up over, you know, 2/3? That's at the NPC. Okay, there's a huge difference between the NPC and the IFBB Pro League. At the NPC level, it's mom, dad, sis, and bro buying tickets, and little Sally Sue and this guy and whoever, have entry fees and stuff like that. It's a completely different world when you get to the pro level.
Yeah, okay? And I'll say this. I know for a fact, for a long time back when I was competing, Bob, when you're competing, the Olympia was losing money. I know that for a fact. They were losing money, yet still putting on that show. I know for a fact, even the women at the Olympia had to actually donate. I think it was Linda Murray had to donate some of her money back to the Olympia just to have the Olympia competition for the women. So it's you know, those are you know, it's a business at the end of the day. So it's not always about money, because the Olympia has always prevailed and done shows and not made money off of it. And of course, you know, that's huge, especially now that I'm you know, considered a handicap. That's huge that they're doing that, because I never thought about it before, but it's absolutely massive. And you're right, nobody makes any money. So I just, I think, just like the internet is so powerful, a lot of people are just talking out of the ASS. They're not looking at the bottom line. They're not understanding that the Olympia probably has the biggest bill there is before the show even happens. Not to mention all the money that they're spending all year long getting ready for that show, where the Arnold doesn't have to do that. So I think, this argument is great. It is bringing more money to the sport. It is happening. I think it's happening more rapidly now because we have people like Jake and we have people like Arnold who's unleashed now, who wants to do more. But I think it's silly when people just argue and make these comments where, you know what, they're not even probably putting into it. So are you supporting the show? Are you going to the shows? Are you going to all the shows? Are you supporting the shows? Yet you expect for other people, oh, I don't have the money. But you're expecting these huge productions that are losing money to keep doing so when you're not even supporting it. You're not supporting the podcast. You're not supporting the live stream. You're not buying it. And you're not showing up in the audience. Yet you want to argue about this. So go beat it. Go pound sand.
Well, Flex, I mean, for those that don't know, you were a part of the pay-per-view years ago with a company that came in and out, but you were actually an integral part. You can explain firsthand to these people where all the millions and millions of dollars went from the pay-per-view.
I'm stuttering because I had the honor of being a president of a hard body, and we were the first company back then.
That's right.
The Olympia and the magazine for it, and shut down the whole show, and we bought everything. We lost our ASS. We were one of the first people who tried to launch a live stream and all that. Nobody supported it. Obviously, there was a lot of problems because technology wasn't that great back then, but we got no support. And the problem was that person, Fred Berger, who was the owner of Hard Body, who did that, he walked away. Here you have a multi-millionaire businessman who just loved our sport, got involved in it and invest. I'm not going to tell you how much, but it was an ridiculous amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars. They didn't support him, and he left.
Of course.
I mean, come on, what are you going to do? Yeah.
Ian, let's get your final considerations on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to sum it up, I think we all can agree that it is awesome that more money is being thrown by promoters at this, and that's from, the qualifying shows right up to Arnold and the Olympia. I never think it's a bad thing. In terms of the distribution between the classes, I completely agree. I mean, I think, you can do things because of the love of the sport, but at the end of the day, to make it sustainable, there has to be the ROI on it, like Bob was saying. I think that when you really look at the numbers, the men's open and then the classic after that, these are the ones there's a difference between people that are Instagram or at the NPC level or things like that versus the people that are literally flying to Vegas, flying to Columbus and buying tickets or paying for a live stream. These are a lot more of the hardcore fans that are a lot of the men's open, fans in general, right? So, I think it would be awesome if all the classes came up over time. And like you said, it's a trickle down effect, like from the NBA down to the WNBA. Yep. So I think if things keep going up for the men's open, they will keep going up for everybody else. But I think that the men's open is still the premier class. I think it is still, maybe because there's guys like Chris Bumstead, you could say, obviously there's big interest there, but those are a lot of 18-year-old kids and 19-year-old kids that aren't necessarily going and buying tickets to the Olympia and the Arnold and going and flying there. These are kids that watch this on social media. There's a big difference between that and the guys that are, actually going to these shows and, spending the money on the tickets. Right. So, overall though, I think it's great. I love to see Arnold pull this move. And we have the sponsorship for the other shows, even some of the shows have, the men's open shows up from 10,000 to 25,000, 50,000. You'll see in some of the men's open show and some of the other shows are bigger purses this year. So I think it's great. I think we're on the right track and like they said, the sport's growing and exploding right now. And if the Olympia responds in kind to the Arnold, would be awesome too. And more money for everybody is never bad for the sport, right?
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, bodybuilding is reaching its peak. If Joe Weider is watching us, and I know he is, he would be very proud of the Mr. Olympia. He would be very proud of bodybuilding. He would be very proud of all the competitions. He would be proud of the expansion of the NPC worldwide. We have tremendous championships, incredible athletes. We have social media influencers, and we are growing as a sport. I want to thank my superstar guest, Iain Valliere. He gave his picks for the Mr. Olympia. Not too many people have this courage, but he's growing his hair. He's got his
beard. Now, what do I get if I get that top 6 bang on 10 months in advance? I want something for that. I'm getting something.
Well, listen. I think that if you get the top 6 right, we need to do something special for you.
Absolutely.
I can tell you that I'm going to do something special from Olympia TV, which is my department. I will do something special for you. Maybe I will customize an Olympia gear jacket with the name Iain Valliere, aka the Nostradamus.
Awesome.
I'll do something for you. I live here in Vegas, so if you're right, definitely I'll do something for you.
Well, I'm hoping I didn't pick those too hastily. I feel good about them, though. I feel good.
I just want to echo that. I live in Vegas, so I'll do something for you.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
He is a superstar guest. I love to have Iain Valliere. He's not only one of the great bodybuilders we had, in my opinion, Bob disagrees. He's the greatest bodybuilder from Canada. Bumstead, aka the Bumsters, is the greatest classic physique. I also would like to thank my co-hosts, 4-time Arnold Classic champion. He's the 1992 Mr. USA's Kenneth Wheeler, and also thank the voice of bodybuilding. He is the master of ceremony for the Arnold Classic and the Mr. Olympia. There was a gentleman here that asked me about the lights of the Olympia. Let me finish the live, and I'm going to fix that for you right now. On my as I come back from the ATM to get the money.
ATM first, yeah.
You know, but I'm glad you guys think I have the money.
You're Brazilian. Of course you have the money.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I got the money ready to go. Yes. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you.